I'm glad they didn't go with the Joker right away, because it's just like, because that's the problem nowadays is everyone just wants to use the Joker. And it's just like, Batman has other villains in his rogues gallery. He has probably like the best rogues gallery around. You could choose another villain.
Oh yeah,
and there's many to choose from. And Nolan and Goyer, like we have to give David Goyer some credit too. He played a big role in this with his writing.
Welcome to Idiot Plot, a comedic podcast critiquing, discussing, and analyzing the media industry through reviews, debates, and historical deep dives.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Idiot Plot. Today we're getting the hype train for Matt Reeves' The Batman going by talking about Chris Nolan's Batman Trilogy. I'm David Yada. Joining me today are my co-host Justin Neitzel. Oh, I fucked it up. I did the wrong order.
Go with it. So Justin Neitzel.
So serious.
And Alex Overall.
I'm not wearing hockey pads.
That's my bad. I messed that up, but we're just gonna roll with it.
As well.
Yeah, we'll compare our toes. So yeah, we're talking about Chris Nolan's Batman movies. We're all excited for Matt Reeves' Batman, I think. So I say we get the party started early and let's talk about some Batman stuff. But before that, we saw some stuff this week. I think we all want to talk about. So Justin, why don't you start us off? What do you want to talk about this week that you've watched?
I'm starting my push for the Oscars, so I watched Power of the Dog, which is the Western movie with Benedict Cumberbatch, Kristen Dunst, Jesse Plemons, and Cody Smith McPhee. I don't know what to think of this movie at times, because like a lot of the performances are really great, but I also find like the story kind of lacking at times. It's like it just seems kind of it doesn't know what it wants to be at times.
Alex watched it before you and I did. I watched it too recently.
I did.
And I really liked the themes of it. I thought it was thematically super rich and deep, but God, is it slow. Yeah. It's such a slow burn. Like, I like a good slow burn, but damn, like, it's dry.
Like, I wasn't fully invested until, like, the last half hour to an hour or so. Once McPhee's character shows up at the ranch, then I was intrigued.
Yeah, to me, that's when the movie, like, that's when it really gets good. To me, it was worth it, like, to build to that and, like, get paid off. But, like, it's on that edge to me of being too slow. Like, really, if it didn't happen, like, exactly when it happened, it might have lost me, because I do think, like, to me, I agree, the themes are really great. I love how it turned out. The first act almost lost me. I think once Kristen Dunst's character gets to the ranch, it was interesting enough for me to be like, all right, I'm into this, and then Cody Smith McPhee shows up and it gets really, really good. But that first act before she gets to the ranch, I think was too long, and that kind of had it playing catch up for a little bit. So I'm the highest on this movie, but I can see where you're coming from.
It needed something just in the middle to get my interest back. I mean, not necessarily needs like a bang bang shoot moment, but like there's it sits in neutral for a very long time.
Even like this wasn't like a shoot 'em western or anything. They're just moving cattle. Like even if like they had an incident where the cattle got spooked and they had to like corral them, just a little action would have been a little something nice to keep it kind of going. But it's just like we're like riding, we're talking, we're sitting, we're eating, we're talking. I'm playing the banjo, we're talking. It's just like, can we go in here?
Oh, but now he's naked.
Good grief, he's naked.
Yeah, once the plot gets going, like the last act is amazing. Oh yeah, some really good psychological thriller stuff. But
that was creeping me out. That movie was creeping me out by the end. I'm uncomfortable.
It takes so long to get there, and I'm sure we'll talk about it more with Oscar stuff when we get more into that, because this is the front runner to win Best Picture. I don't know if it's my pick, but at least as of now,
that's the enjoyment for me. As like I gotta start watching all these Best Pictures, and this is the first one, so kind of started out on a little low of a note. But if this is the front runner, I'm afraid to see what's next.
I will say Belfast is like almost tied with it at this point. They're very close.
Belfast, which I recently saw. It's not my pick, but I recently saw it. I thought it was good. I wasn't blown away by it. There's some really good moments, but it it's structured a lot like the Florida Project, where there's not a ton of actual narrative to it.
Uh-oh.
like
that's the one I'm actually most excited to see, I think, of the nominees I have yet to see.
There's some really good slice of life stuff to it, and the opening is amazing. Like one of the best I've seen in a long time. And some of this, and it's clear that Kenneth Branagh was passionate about it, but like I said, it lacks a lot of like actual like a plot narrative to it. There's a large part of it where it's just people hanging out in Belfast, which is cool for character growth and thematic exploration, but not for storytelling.
Yeah.
Like it's a sneak preview of Belfast. My advice to you guys is watch Don't Look Up just as soon as you possibly can, and just rip that Band-Aid off.
Bite the bullet. Yeah,
I was gonna do that yesterday, but then something came up, so that was definitely next on the list because I was like, I thought I'd start with good, then go low, and then probably go up again. So
well, that's like, I mean, you don't want to end on that unless you guys end up actually really liking it. I just highly doubt that either of you will.
probably not.
I will say,
If it's
I ended last year with Promising Young Woman, so I've already made this similar mistake.
If it's like a Strangelove-esque satire and I'm sitting there going, it's not good, I doubt you guys are going to like it.
yeah, but what I will say about Power of the Dog, it's like Cody Smith-McPhee, like Oscar nomination, like you're like the best part of this movie, buddy. You're gonna win.
He's so good.
Like
There's no way he's not.
You're kicking Cumberbatch's and Kristen Dunst's ass. Like,
Which, yeah, I say a lot. They're both great in it, and he's like steals the show. I was blown away by that.
Yeah, there's no way he doesn't win. Which it feels weird to say that Cody Smith-McPhee's about to win an Oscar, because I remember when he was like a kid and not very good.
I remember
I
the first thing I saw him in was the Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
The Road. He's pretty good in The Road, I think. I haven't seen that movie in a long time.
Well, I don't know.
He's finally differentiated himself from Asa Butterfield.
They do look
It's so
eerily
weird because-
slimmer.
Well, it's so weird because Cody Smith-McPhee was at one point the store brand Asa Butterfield, and now Asa Butterfield is the store brand Cody Smith-McPhee. Alex, what's your pick for this week?
So I watched another interesting topic of discussion here, because I watched Gattaca, which I believe has come up a few times on this podcast.
Yes, it has.
Justin is very intrigued in what you have to say right now. I can feel it.
I heard the excitement in your voice. So Gattaca, for those who don't know, is about a future society where like the whole concept of designer babies has basically become the norm, and anyone who's like born normally is like considered genetically inferior. So the protagonist wants to go to space. This is like his dream. So he basically fakes being genetically modified using like this kind of black market program where like you look like somebody and like they give you some of their blood and shit, and like he swaps places with Jude Law. The lead is played by Ethan Hawke, and he goes through this, but something happens at the facility and they learn that there's someone who's not who they say they are there. So he's trying to dodge the investigation throughout the movie. So I did really like this movie. I'm definitely not as high as Justin and some other people on it. Although it is one that I think the more I sit on it, the more I like it, because thematically I love all the themes. Like it really communicates those very well. There's a lot of tension. The performances are really good. I think like for better or worse, it's very 90s.
Oh yeah.
Like I mean that mostly in a good way, but like it's got like that uplifting thing, or like the competition with his brother and that kind of stuff feels very 90s. And that part of it I didn't quite like as much, but it's at its best when it's examining like the protagonist and the society and like the core themes of this movie.
Yeah, it's always been like the stuff with the brother, you could take or leave it. It's just like, but it's all the like themes of like just working hard enough and you can still achieve your dreams and everything. It's like, it's a very uplifting movie with just this cool premise and everything in the background.
Yeah. And yeah, I almost wish that sometimes they leaned into that more, like the interesting world and premise and stuff, and like maybe less of the brother stuff. But again, the A plot like is really well executed, and all the performances are great.
It's very classic sci-fi. Mm-hmm. Like when you look at like classic sci-fi, like Bradbury and that kind of stuff, Gattaca fits very mumuch into that sort of sci-fi social commentary angle of things.
Or like Planet of the Apes, which we talked about recently.
Yep.
Like that kind of thing.
And because now when you think of sci-fi, like in the modern sense, everyone thinks immediately of bang, bang, shoot, shoot, robot overlords nonsense. When really sci-fi was about telling stories of society's gone awry.
And it's a little bit like it was getting popular then, but like what this movie talks about is much more possible and much more discussed about now even than it was when it came out in like 97. Like it's a much more relevant topic even now than it was when it came out. Yeah. And it's one that's been like is highly regarded by people within the field of biotech and like just biology in general. It's well regarded. Like it does a great job of like actually being accurate. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's a good film. I do think it's one that the more I sit on it, the more I'm gonna like it because I've still been thinking about it and the themes and how like ahead of its time it was to an extent.
So I'm going non-traditional with my pick. I'm not gonna pick a movie or TV show or anything, even though I've watched a few. Like Belfast. I want to talk about the trailer for Disney Plus's upcoming movie adaptation, if you can even call it that, of Chippendale Rescue Rangers.
Look how they massacred my boy.
I know. People are thinking. People are thinking, what's the deal with Chippendale Rescue Rangers? Like, well, first off, if you don't know what that is, it was an 80s to 90s cartoon on Disney Afternoon, where it featured, Chippendale, the Disney classic characters.
Not to be confused with.
That's a completely different movie. But no, the Disney chipmunks, and they go on like missions with this team, including this female chipmunk Gadget, and they're in this like vehicle guy named Monterey Jack. They're going all these cool adventures. Well, Disney Plus is making a movie that of this show. They're making in what's the word I want to do? In cooperation with the Lonely Island of all people, which I don't even really know how to explain this movie. Like it's this meta retelling where the show is a show in real life and their actors playing the characters, and it's them years later reconnecting after the show ended. So it's very Roger Rabbit-esque, but the stuff that they're doing looks horrifying. So part of this world, Chip is cell shaded animation. He stayed 2D, but Dale got a CGI upgrade, like a plastic surgery, and looks like something out of Space Jam 2. This movie looks absurd and horrific. I guess most I can say is watch the trailer and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. You have John Mulaney and Andy Samberg as Chip and Dale, who sound terrible.
Like
they're clearly there for the paycheck.
Yeah, well, yeah, they sound absolutely.
They sound nothing like what you expect the characters to sound like.
Well, even when you go, because we have cartoon characters being voiced by big actors now, like Chris Pratt voicing everyone. Even with that kind of current trend, it sounds really phoned in. Mm. And the meta approach to it, I mean, you have references to cats.
They're writing, funny considering how horrifying this looks.
They're basically insulting cats and like the weird Zemeckis mocap movies.
Yeah, cats is horrible, but yet they look like shit too.
They have no to stand on.
And they're like riding My Little Ponies for some reason at one point in the trailer. Like I said, when I sent it to you, I'm like, I have no clue what this is, but check this out.
Yeah, you sent it to me. I saw that thumbnail and I couldn't wrap my brain around it because
did they not finish the animation?
Animation styles. I was like, what the fuck is this?
Well, it's funny because I saw the thumbnail. It was the first thing I said. Saw it. I'm like, what is this? And I was like, and I read the description of the video, and I'm like, Chip and Dale. I'm like, oh, okay. I don't know how to feel about this. Then I watched it and I'm like, what are we doing? Like, this is not what I expected at all. Like, at least when like the Tom and Jerry one that came out, it was like they actually did like a Tom and Jerry story. This is just like nowhere near what Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers was.
What's wrong with doing a Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers movie that's actually a Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers? Why did they have to go for meta Roger Rabbit commentary that clearly misses the point of Roger Rabbit?
And why does it have to be live action? Why can't it just be animated?
Yeah, the Like, I don't understand. You would think with the success of the DuckTales reboot that they would they would go for a different approach. But like, this just looks bizarre.
Yeah, it's baffling. It's like they saw Space Jam 2 and went, yes,
We can do that.
that. Give me that.
Hopefully, it's
Because
at
that
least
was
shorter.
so successful.
I mean, this screams Disney, like straight to Disney Plus, which is what they're doing with it.
Thank God.
In May, I'm sure I'm gonna watch this shit. I know I am because I'm morbidly curious. Like, I know it's gonna be terrible. It looks terrible.
Trunk watch. Let's do that.
I'm not even that big a fan of the Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers show. Like, that's probably one of my least favorites of the Disney afternoon shows.
Oh, are we gonna fight now?
Justin, weigh in. Because so me and Alex don't just fight. Be a tiebreaker.
What was the Disney after lineup?
DuckTales, Darkwing Duck, Tailspin, Rescue Rangers, Gummy Bears, Gargoyles.
Yeah, that's probably the lowest.
Oh, come on, not gummy bear shit. No, get out of here.
Hey, the Gummy Bears theme song might be the best of all of them.
That's true, but this show, I
was always bored by it. Oh, okay, Chris Collinsworth.
Now here's the show.
Okay, it's not the worst. I'm seeing other ones. There's Bonkers was worse than that. That Mighty Ducks weird one.
But it's on the lower end of the high area, right? Of like the ones that everyone.
It's like in the middle. I won't say it's the worst.
I'm definitely gonna, which is weird too. Like, Scrooge McDuck's in the trailer, but like he's like traditionally animated. So is Roger Rabbit. Like the
They didn't hide what they were doing. They put Roger Rabbit in the freaking trailer.
We were doing the Roger Rabbit with Roger Rabbit. Oh my God. Like, Roger Rabbit worked because it was a noir movie that happened to have cartoon characters. This is them trying to be fun. This isn't Roger Rabbit. It's trying to be Tropic Thunder.
Yeah.
Like, it wants to be cartoon Tropic Thunder, which is an even worse idea.
Well, like he even in the trailer, it shows the guy like, we're thinking about a reboot, and Chip's like, no one likes reboots, and runs away. It's like,
yeah, movie. Okay, this is something that a lot of movies do. I'll wrap this up. We've been talking about Chip and Dale for way longer than we should. But I'll wrap this up quick with this point of, because the movies are doing this now way too much, where just because you make a commentary on the thing that you are doing doesn't mean you aren't doing it. Just because you make fun of crappy reboots and remakes doesn't mean you aren't doing a crappy reboot. If anything, it makes it worse that you're self-aware and still doing it.
And it's fine to be self-aware, but you guys suck at it.
Like you can't have it both ways. Whatever. It's Chip and Dale. I'm sure we'll have more comments on that when it actually comes out in May on Disney Plus.
As if I remember watching it.
Oh,
I'm gonna be drinking while I watch it. I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure I will. I don't know if there's any way that you can watch it sober.
It's gonna be like watching Cats all over again. Which cats are in the trailer? So, anyways, we should probably move on.
And move on to a much better topic. Chris Nolan's Batman trilogy, guys.
Yeah.
Hey.
So, like we said, Matt Reeves' The Batman's coming out in like 2 or 3 weeks from this recording.
Something like that.
Yeah, 2 weeks from
Friday.
2 weeks from 2 weeks from Friday.
Yeah, so 2 weeks from Friday is when this will come out after the 2 week point, but it's coming soon is the point. So we're gonna kind of get the hype train going and talk about some Batman stuff. And what other big Batman thing to talk about than the Chris Nolan Batman trilogy? At the time regarded as probably the best superhero movie series ever, and arguably one of the best movie series ever, has kind of like come down in recent years as the MCU and other superhero franchises have kind of taken flight. But we're gonna go over all the movies and some other Chris Nolan stuff, our thoughts on them and the impact, but also some of the more pop culture stuff surrounding it. But to start, I'm gonna blow your guys' mind right now, because when everyone thinks of me, they think of like a giant Batman nerd, right?
Well, you do have the pajamas.
I do. I didn't see Begins or Dark Knight in theaters, and I saw Dark Knight first. I rented it like a year after it came out.
I'll right there with you. Neither did I, but that's because it was, and I didn't because like Batman Begins was kind of like after you saw like the Clooney Batman, so I wasn't too intrigued by by it. And then The Dark Knight, I was intrigued by it, but I wasn't able to drive, and there was no way I could get to the theater. So I had to wait.
Yeah, for me, I watched Begins. I don't believe I saw Begins in theater. I'm pretty sure I rented or watched it after. But I did see Dark Knight on opening night back before they did oh, you can watch it at 10 a.m. on a Wednesday. So I went at fucking midnight on a school night and middle school, and I went to see that shit at midnight, and it was amazing. Of course, not knowing I knew it was going to be good, right? The buzz was really good. People were saying this might be the best comic book movie, but it's crazy knowing when you go to see that kind of movie and then you leave that movie and you're okay, I just watched something different, something big.
Well, I felt bad because that's how I felt when I saw it at home. I was oh my god, this is mind blowing. Seeing that movie and playing Batman Arkham Asylum is what got me into the character. My bank account really regrets me watching this movie because of all the money I've spent on random Batman books and nonsense over the years.
It's funny you say that because after I watched The Dark Knight, I was on my PlayStation 3 and I was going through the PlayStation store. They had the Arkham game, and it's oh, you can download a demo to try it or whatever. And I'm I'm going to do that. And I did it, and I'm okay, I need to go out and buy this game now.
Which it's funny, because you guys at this point have definitely, I feel read more Batman comics than me. At least sure you have, David. But I was subscribed to it when I was in elementary, the issues. And when Batman Begins came out, I watched it shortly after, and I played the Batman Begins video game. That was on PS2.
It's not that bad.
No, it was really fun. And there's some stuff that you can kind of see the influence on Arkham a little bit, just with the whole getting people to be afraid of you thing. But that was a big part of that game. But I played that one. Oh, that was 2005 or 6 whenever Begins came out. And yeah, but I was already a big Batman fan as a kid. And then when Dark Knight came out, I followed all the hype for it. That was the first movie that really I followed every single trailer. I followed all the marketing, and I was really ready for it when it came out.
I mean, I remember the first trailer I saw of that movie was just it's black. You just hear the Joker go, "Good evening, Commissioner," and it just shows him. I'm whoa, we're in for something good.
And what's interesting to me is the fact that I'm not the only one that Dark Knight fostered a love of comics in. I think a lot of people is where it started. But Dark Knight and the Nolan movies as a whole aren't anything like the comics. There's almost nothing in common with them other than Batman. But the characterization, everything is completely different, especially at the time of release. If anything, they've got other way to make the comics more like Nolan to appeal to those people.
Well, I think it managed to capture the essence of it or the mood of it to an extent, but then just completely did its own thing with it, which is, kind of what an adaptation of this kind of should be, I think.
Well,
he made his own story with it.
Well, it was grounded in reality. The Joker is not going to have a giant hot air balloon with his face on it and fly around because that's kind of ridiculous.
Prince playing in the background.
Yeah, but have him be this weird anarchist type person with a mysterious backstory that works. And I kind of want to switch gears a little bit and talk about, because everyone talk about how great Dark Knight is, right? We all know it. But Batman Begins, in my opinion, does not get enough love.
Definitely agree.
And
that's the thing. It sparked the whole. That's the one that sparked the whole debate. Which is funny to think that there was a debate, but after Begins, it was oh, that might have been the best Batman movie. Is Christian Bale the best Batman now, or is it Michael Keaton? It's there used to be a little bit of a debate between those two movies, but Begins came out and was instantly one of the best comic book movies and in contention for being the best, and with Spider-Man and X-Men and that sort of thing.
And what Nolan did for a start, he didn't take Joker or Penguin or Two-Face or Riddler or any of the big villains to start the trilogy. He picked Scarecrow and Ra's al Ghul, who were relatively unknown.
Yeah, everyone even I remember was
I don't get enough credit as villains in that movie.
Yeah, but I remember those weren't even big villains in the animated series as much either.
No, they had a couple episodes here and there. So ballsy pick for him do that. But it worked, right? It made something new and different.
Well, that's the thing is just like, I'm glad they didn't go with the Joker right away, because it's just like, because that's the problem nowadays is everyone just wants to use the Joker. And it's just like, Batman has other villains in his rogues gallery. He has probably like the best rogues gallery around. You could choose another villain.
Oh yeah,
and there's many to choose from. And Nolan and Goyer, like we have to give David Goyer some credit too. He played a big role in this with his writing. They knew what would work. Like they knew from a story standpoint, not necessarily what people wanted to see, because I think if you asked what people wanted from Batman movie at that time, they would not have said Batman Begins. But they knew what actually worked in the modern age and what the character needed. I mean, people forget just how much Batman and Robin killed that entire franchise.
Yeah, it's weird to think that for almost 10 years there was not in the Batman movie.
I mean, DC and Warner spun their wheels for like you said, close to a decade trying to get something else going. Before Nolan gave the Dark Knight trilogy pitch.
Who was also like, it's weird to think about now because Nolan is like the classically made blockbuster guy right now, but that was his first blockbuster. Like that was his first big budget movie, really. I mean, he made a thriller that had a decent sized budget mostly because of who was in it before that, and then before that was Memento. And this was his first massive budget movie.
Yeah, this movie cost $150 million, which in 2005 is a lot. Like that was a lot back now. That's standard. Back then, that was a lot. Like that was a huge risk.
Yeah,
well, you gotta remember
it's more than his. It's $100 million more than his previous two movies combined cost.
This is even before Iron Man came out, so it's and this is right after X-Men, so it's kind of in that between stage where comic book movies are kind of growing, but not to that level yet.
And you look at how he made Batman Begins, stuff that you wouldn't even consider now. I mean, he built a large portion of Gotham City in a soundstage for them to film with. It wasn't like they went to an actual city and filmed. Most of Gotham at Night is a set that they built. They fucking built a town.
And also, I mean, I was thinking about the one I love the most from Batman Begins is the League of Shadows and the winter areas and just how that looks aesthetically. I really love all of that.
Did you know the story behind that?
I don't actually.
It was something they filmed it at the they filmed it in this area that has this weird weather patterns where when they went and filmed, I think there was there's a blizzard at one location, so they had to go to the area where they filmed the sword fight on the frozen lake. Mm-hmm. Which everyone knows, right? That it's the most iconic parts of this movie is Christian Bale and Liam Neeson doing sword training over this frozen lake or river. But they had to rush filming through it because of the weather changes, and they said that they filmed that scene, and the day after they filmed it, that little frozen area was completely melted. It was a rushing river or big lake. They got lucky.
And yeah, I just that part of it doesn't get enough credit. And then going back to the villains, just Ra's al Ghul, Liam Neeson as Ra's al Ghul, worked really well, even though that's not it's very different from how the character is in the comic. But yeah,
because he's white.
To say the least, yeah, there's that. But it just worked really well, and it all tied into making Batman who he is. And then Cillian Murphy does not get enough credit for Scarecrow either, which is funny because he's in all three movies. But
to be fair with the whole Ra's al Ghul thing, I mean, they do kind of use it as a moniker because Ken Watanabe was Ra's al Ghul before Liam Neeson was.
I don't know if that's how I interpreted that scene. I always interpreted it as Ken Watanabe wasn't Ra's al Ghul. It was always Liam Neeson, and Ken Watanabe was just a front
man.
Yeah,
to see how he would react, and it's obviously he doesn't kill like they want him to.
I mean, you could interpret it either way.
From comic book mindset of Ra's al Ghul being immortal.
Yeah, but this is grounded in reality, so
it could be either way.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's a definite answer to that question.
Yeah, because I mean, what you're saying, Justin, makes a lot of sense. That's the grounded way to say he's immortal is that it's a name that gets passed on.
I think if you ask Christopher Nolan, he'll tell you the same thing he tells you in Inception. Watch the movie.
I mean, damn it.
He goes, shut the fuck up, nerd. Go outside. You were thinking too much.
But also another thing that carries into Dark Knight that this gets right and helps set up how good Dark Knight is as a crime movie is like how this one brings in the crime families, which none of the previous Batman movies had really done anything with. It was always Joker or Mr. Freeze or whoever.
No, but to be fair, that element of the character and the world wasn't established in the source material until after a lot of those movies came out. Like a lot of crime element didn't start until year one, which was in the late 80s. I'm pretty sure Tim Burton's movie was already in production by then.
Right. I meant more for the ones after the Burton one.
But even then, Long Halloween, which was the other big one, didn't come out until 96. So a lot of the shift in the character in the source material into organized crime didn't even happen yet until Batman Begins was in production.
So what you're saying is we have those stories plus Nolan bringing it to the screen that kind of helped out each other.
Kinda, yeah, I'd say. Well, Frank Miller and Jeff Loeb's use of mobsters in the storytelling in the 80s and 90s redefined the character. It redefined him more as a guy cleaning up street crime versus the guy who's after the colorful villains in the fancy suits. Which I personally think works a lot better in a lot of ways for that character. I think it grounds everything a lot.
There's the animated series too.
Well, it also works with how he started with that, but then, like they say, like even in this movie, it's like something comes along to counteract him.
What do you mean by that?
Like there's even the episode in the animated series, like who created who? Did Batman create these villains, or is Batman there to stop the villains or whatever? You know what I mean?
Batman hot take. I hate when Batman stories use that as a crutch. They do it so much now.
Yeah.
Oh, they do it now because and I think like a lot of it again, we've kind of we keep circling around it, but like Dark Knight, that's such a huge part of that movie, and it was such a huge success that like literally everything with Batman uses that now.
Yeah, like Batman Begins, which if you haven't seen Batman Begins, like the plot is exactly what you think it is, right? It's Batman's origin story. Like that shouldn't come to credits.
Yes, it makes it feel very fresh, which origin stories now feel very stale a lot of times, but this was a very fresh way of doing it.
Yeah. Dark Knight, on the other hand, is a perfect sequel in that it just hits the ground running from what Batman Begins gave it. It doesn't spend any time trying to retread old ground, redo exposition. Like I saw Dark Knight before I saw Begins, and I could follow along perfectly.
Well, you get that even from the opening bank heist. Like he starts it out with, let's get in the action, let's go.
Which, one of the most iconic opening scenes of recent memory. Like that opening is perfect.
I killed the bus driver.
Bus driver? What bus driver?
And it's still, like, that opening scene, Dark Knight as a whole, is still one of the best uses of filming on IMAX film cameras I've ever seen. Because Nolan did it he's very motivated when he did it, and did whole scenes with IMAX cameras. Mm-hmm. Now, when you see IMAX stuff, like go on Disney Plus and watch a Marvel movie that's not Infinity War or Endgame in their special IMAX enhanced mode, and you'll see what I'm talking about, where there'll be like two characters talking, and one of them is shot on IMAX film and one of them is shot on a normal camera, and it's painful. It's actually hard to watch because the freaking aspect ratio changes every 3 seconds.
Yeah, and even like to be honest, like I'm sure this movie will come up a little bit at some point, but like in Tenet, that happened a little bit. Like some of the action scenes would cut back and forth.
Yeah, which isn't great. Like I don't like that. It's not as bad as what Marvel or what Michael Bay did with Transformers.
You really like to get away with it. You really have to bring something special. Like the Mission Impossible Fallout got away with it because you're watching Tom Cruise try to kill himself with a helicopter. So like I really don't notice that the aspect ratio is changing.
Well, also wasn't like this like one of the first movies shot on IMAX camera?
Dark Knight was. Begins was one of the first shown in IMAX on the format. And Dark Knight, I believe, was one of the first that actually filmed. Not all of it was filmed because IMAX cameras back then were a nightmare to film with.
Oh, I know. I remember stories of they actually broke one or whatever. I think it went down in the water or whatever when they were filming in the what do you call it?
The tunnel?
Yeah, the underneath tunnel area.
Well, yeah, Yeah, because they're expensive and loud. So if like you broke one, you were screwed. And there weren't that many in the world. Like you break one, and that's like one of the 15 that exist that you just broke. Which obviously they're willing to pay the money for it. But what it does though is it increases the size and the scale. It's something that modern day blockbusters miss. Is what camera you film with, how you choose to film a movie affects the movie itself. I know that seems like a super obvious statement, but
it's really not as obvious as you'd think now.
Yeah, like it's really not. Filming on 70 millimeter looks really different than filming on a fucking red camera. Like it just does.
Yeah, it's a combination of things too. Like are you filming on a red, and are you filming, in a studio with green screen and trying to CG in the environment and try and make it look big, or because like Chicago filmed on an IMAX camera looks bigger than like a CGI planned environment in game or something.
Yeah,
like it just
actual
feels
buildings.
Bigger. Yeah,
it feels
like
weird.
nothing feels at the scale of that scene where they're in the tunnel and they're getting attacked and there's the SWAT cars and there's the helicopters. Like that feels bigger than almost anything in like a blockbuster now, where you have more moving pieces, but like that just has more scale and tension to it.
Well, that's one thing with helping.
Semi.
Yeah, well, that's one thing that with Nolan, you're always going to get a very qualified cinematographer to do the shooting. So you can look at The Dark Knight as probably one of the best shot comic book movies you'll ever find.
Might be the best shot.
Yeah,
arguably.
Yeah, I mean, it was nominated for an Oscar. Like, you don't see many Marvel movies getting nominations for cinematography.
If any. I don't think any have. And they shouldn't. I mean, well, Wally Pfister, or heck you want to say his name, he actually, I think, got big back when Avengers came out because he criticized how it was shot. And he said, like, you look at cinematography, it's shot horribly. It's shot to show off the expensive CGI and the expensive sets that they built. It doesn't actually help the movie in any way. And he's right.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. People are probably like, there they go, praising Nolan like film student brats, bashing Marvel again. But it's not just Marvel that didn't take the right lessons from Dark Knight. It's like every blockbuster.
Yeah, you got this began the age of the dark reboot. Thanks to this. And it's interesting how quickly they came out because there was no correlation between them. Both had started as separate projects, but you got Batman Begins and you got Casino Royale. And after that, it was all over. It was all over. Everything was dark, gritty, grounded reboot.
Do you guys
for the next 10 years.
Do you guys remember when Dark Knight was like the darkest big movie ever made? And like people were like talked about it was like the boogeyman. Like Dark Knight, so intense. It's so graphic.
No,
it's like almost R-rated.
What?
Like
I wasn't.
Like people were like appalled by it because it's a bunch of boomers that remember Batman being Adam West in pajamas going bang pow and finally got a comic accurate Batman. And they're like, oh no.
Luckily for me, I hadn't gotten to film circles at this point yet, so I got to miss all like the backlash when Heath Ledger was casted and all that kind of stuff. I just enjoyed watching movies and
fans suck at casting.
So if fans cast movies, Stephen Lang would be every old buff dude in every movie ever made.
Commissioner Gordon, Stephen Lang,
That's
also
true.
Ra's al Ghul and Bane.
Everyone would be Stephen Lang. But like that's
And I think too, like again, going back to like I guess kind of lumping these two movies together, like the Batman reboot and the Bond reboot, right? Like very few times has casting been more complained about as Daniel Craig as Bond and Heath Ledger as Joker.
to be fair, I mean, there are times where casting is shit, like Jesse Eisenberg is freaking Luther.
Or Jared Leto was Joker.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
And people were happy that Jared Leto was Joker until they got that first image of him with the damage tattoo across his forehead. And then when it went, oh no, what happened?
I'm always willing to give the guy the benefit of the doubt.
And that was the opposite reaction when everybody shut up when they saw the first image of Heath Ledger. Everyone was like,
dude,
oh.
Like you have to give Nolan credit for with these movies is the casting.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Of Christian Bale as Batman, Michael Caine as Alfred, Heath Ledger as Joker, but Gary Oldman as Commissioner Gordon, Morgan Morgan Freeman as Lucius Fox.
Well, it's to the point where they've become like the iconic representation of certain characters. Like, it's impossible to think about Alfred now, I feel like, without thinking about Michael Caine.
Yeah, no, agreed.
Or it's impossible. I mean, Lucius Fox. Morgan Freeman is just Lucius Fox now. Like, every version of Lucius Fox now is just budget Morgan Freeman.
But like, compare it to Marvel movies again. Marvel movies seem to be casting these big actors in roles that they should not be in. Like why is Walton Goggins this random business dude in Ant-Man 2? Why are you wasting Mads Mikkelsen with this throwaway Doctor Strange villain? Like be motivated. Nolan was motivated. He got the money. He cast Michael Caine because he cast Michael Caine in everything. But Gary Oldman, we're thinking about now. Gary Oldman, I think this was when he was still blacklisted.
Might be.
Yeah, he had a period of not doing very much.
Well, because he was blacklisted by Katzenberg, because Katzenberg made them re-edit a movie he was in, or at least Gary Oldman claims that Jeffrey Katzenberg had them edit a movie he was in to be good towards to be good towards his Democratic friends, because it was a kind of an anti-Democrat movie, and Katzenberg supposedly had them edit it so that way his friends he donated to look nicer. And Oldman said it on like live TV or something. He called out Katzenberg, and he just disappeared overnight. Like,
looks like it was around that time, but I think it looks like Harry Potter was
Harry
what
Potter. Yeah,
he got that first, so I think that kind of started bringing him back in.
But he was still like now people want Gary Oldman in freaking everything. But that was a time when like his name was cancer. His name would kill your movie.
I mean, he did. There were a lot of other I think there were other movie characters like, I mean, Cillian Murphy as Scarecrow. Cillian Murphy was not big at this time. I mean, he did 28 Days Later, but
he still really isn't that big.
Much else, right? Then that was an independent movie. Like, he had a lot of kind of like, I mean, Heath Ledger was like popular, but he wasn't really like an awards actor until like Brokeback Mountain, and then obviously Dark Knight.
Aaron Eckhart as Harvey Dent.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which again, Aaron Eckhart as Dent. I mean, Eckhart now has kind of disappeared because he has a bad agent. But like, again, definitive Harvey Dent performance for a lot of people. Neat.
Yeah, and again, that's not like as big of an actor, but he was the perfect fit for Harvey Dent and like nailed that character to the point where it's hard picturing anybody doing it. Like, Joker gets so much, and rightfully so, like credit and praise in Dark Knight, but Two-Face drives so much of that movie too, and that's such a perfect portrayal of that arc. Like,
they took one of the best parts of Long Halloween, which was Harvey Dent's transformation into Two-Face, and they nailed it. Not necessarily the plot, but they nailed like the themes of it and what it actually means to the story. Go back
to Aaron Eckhart as like the definitive Harvey Dent. It's kind of hard when your other options are Billy D. Williams, but he didn't get the chance to be actually Two-Face, and you got freaking Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face, and just get to see him.
That's not Tommy Lee Jones's fault. That's Joel Schumacher's fault.
No, I know. Yeah, I'm just saying, like, this you got to see him as both characters. The other ones you only got to see one side of.
Which Two-Face needs. I mean, Two-Face doesn't get much love in the comics because he's hard to do right.
Yeah.
Because he's both tragic fallen hero and goofy clown.
In this case, they just took out the goofy clown.
Yeah, it's not, I am going to steal $2 million from the twin banks of Gotham or some shit. Like, is that everything related to fucking two?
Forgot they used to do that.
It's the split personality part of it, where you start to see his mind start to crack before he becomes Two-Face, which is important to that character, right? Is he gets really into trying to stop organized crime, and so he starts to kind of fracture a little bit, and then he gets the acid or the fire or whatever it is on his face, and that completely fractures his personality for good.
It's still like gradually done, but they managed to do that whole arc in one movie. I don't think I have not seen the arc done better than that in any medium. I don't think they just nailed it perfectly. And even at the time, it was like, Harvey Dent's in this. I bet he's going to be Two-Face in the next movie. Nope.
No,
he's Two-Face in this movie.
Which they did. This was made now. That'd be in the fucking poster.
Yep, that'd be in the trailer. It'd be in the poster. Like we went in not knowing, and in fact, kind of assuming, like, in the next movie he'll be Two-Face because Joker's in this. But no, it ties that and Joker together because this movie actually has themes and a message, and Harvey Dent and / Two-Face is just as tied to that as Joker is.
Well, there are times where I would wish he was in the next movie or whatever, considering I would would like to see more of him as Harvey Dent kind of losing it, not just like one scene.
Well, David, fun fact, he was supposed to be Two-Face in the next movie because Dark Knight is actually two movies that Nolan combined into one. Nolan didn't know, like, originally Dark Knight was supposed to end after the tunnel chase. It was supposed to end after that, and everything after that was going to be part of a third movie. But Nolan didn't know if he wanted to make three movies, so he instead decided to make one giant epic one.
Which is a good choice because I feel like that would be a decent movie. That would not be an all-time great movie like this is.
Yeah.
You have two good movies, but not one like masterpiece.
This is how movies should be made, one at a freaking time.
You know what's funny is like
comes next, you do one at a time, and you make the one that you were making at that time good as hell.
It's kind of funny is like you look at the director, because like how many times have we bitched about like Batman v Superman being like 5 different movies in one, House of Gucci being five different movies in one. Here someone actually put two movies together and made like one of the greatest films ever.
Yeah, because really like he combined them realizing they were really one movie with one point, and he knew exactly what he wanted to say in this movie.
And it's weird because if you did that as two movies, I feel like the lengths of either movie wouldn't really change. It's not like he would divide a 2.5 hour movie in half. It'd probably be two 2-hour movies, but with as much story as this one movie, which this is the much better
picture. Yeah, and it's just I mean like, and it's one of those things like why everybody keeps going back and comparing new comic movies. Oh, is this the Dark Knight? Is this better than the Dark Knight? Does this match the Dark Knight? The reason everybody keeps going back to it is because like you talk about the best comic book movies, it's almost not even worth bringing the Dark Knight up because it's basically transcended that debate. People talk about best movies of the 21st century and Dark Knight is near the top. Like it's just transcend like all-time movies. It's just like you know when you talk about like the other best crime movies, like oh what are the best mob movies? Do you really even want to talk about The Godfather? Like it's just so good that why are we even talking about it? And that's like what the Dark Knight has done. It's the only, and still to this day, the only comic movie you see that's like in any circle, not just fans, but like critics, like, I mean, the industry, like everybody actually vaults this movie above and talks about its place in like just history in general.
It does everything right. It's well shot. The visual effects, all the practical stunts are amazing. Like the use of miniatures, miniature vehicles, miniature sets, real sets. It looks flawless. Even when there is CGI, which is more than you would think, it looks amazing because it's used sparingly and it's used to enhance what's already there, not build the entire set.
Yeah.
Again, that's what you get from Nolan. He builds everything that he shoots. He doesn't go in and be like, let's take a day off. Let's throw up the green screen and just let the animators work.
He did do that once in Dark Knight. It's when Batman jumps off the tower in China, and that's because there was no way how the Chinese government was actually going to let him jump off a tower in the middle of Beijing or wherever that was. Yeah. So they had to just pretend he jumped off the tower in China. The thing that Jake went to China and filmed that scene because they wanted the right architecture.
Yeah, because I think I remember reading like China had to like shut down their like things so the like all the smog would clear in time for them to shoot.
I mean, the Dark Knight's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's kind of like Alex that hard to talk about because what's there to say that hasn't already been said? Except maybe something that we'll get into a little bit that's more related to the movie that came next, which was Dark Knight Rises, which I really enjoyed this movie.
Underappreciated.
But for some reason, it's like, it's completely shit on people. People act like it's one of the worst superhero movies ever made now.
That's absurd. To me, like, I'm going to be honest, like, I'll just be all out and bold. I think it's one of the best. Easily.
I would agree. It's still...
Like, this movie's fantastic.
Perfect? No. It does a lot of things wrong.
It's better than half the MCU, so...
It is. Because
it's another thing where, like, Nolan made it like an epic out of it. Like, the scale is huge, the story is huge, but still personal. Like, it's paced that way, it's structured that way, it's shot that way. He's still like an expert at the craft. The stunts are still amazing, and I think the story is really good. Like, everybody pokes just the tiniest holes in this thing, and it's like hold that microscope up to like other comic comic book movies, other big budget movies, or just other movies in general, if you scrutinize them that closely, you'd find a lot more than you find in this movie.
People just mad 'cause it's not Dark Knight. It's so frustrating.
Yeah, and that's the pressure of following the Dark Knight. That's like incredibly difficult. And yeah, it was not going to be that movie.
It's for people that haven't seen Dark Knight Rises or don't remember Dark Knight Rises, it follows Batman fighting Bane, who's teamed up with the League of Shadows to go take over Gotham City and destroy it in this like no man's land type thing where they sever it from the rest of the United States. Batman's crippled and sent away into a prison for most of the movie, and you kind of deal with this Gotham under siege type storyline as Batman needs to come and save Gotham from being nuked. And I guess my big complaint, which is the one that everyone seems to have but acts like it makes the movie completely invalid, is that I wish there was more Batman in it. Just because there isn't a ton of Batman in this.
No, it's more of like a character piece of him trying to come back to because it takes place 8 years after the Dark Knight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, quite a ways.
So he's got to come back after injuring his leg and just kind of falling to the wayside.
Right from like the whole Harvey Dent, like how that affected him.
It just feels weird that Gotham is falling apart under siege and Batman's not there. Like that's a weird. I get why he did what he did. Like it makes sense for Nolan's kind of the themes of his trilogy, having Batman sit and watch as his city burns and have to kind of get the strength to fight back and save it is very Nolan.
Well,
but
had to heal from his broken back.
Yeah, I feel like doing the Nightfall storyline where Bane breaks Batman's back in a movie is so much of a risk. I almost wish that they wouldn't have done it.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least
to me it worked, but like
or at least that's what you do at the that's what I would do at the end of them. Not necessarily to set up the next movie, but you have him sacrifice his body to save Gotham.
That is pretty good.
right, like he breaks his back, he's paralyzed, but Gotham is saved. I'm not quite sure how he'd save it. I'm not trying to pick a fight and say I can write a better movie, but I feel like having that be like almost like the middle of Act 1, start of Act 2 turning point of the movie is a bizarre choice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it's bad. And of course, but then there was this too. Everyone talks about Tom Hardy's voice and acts like it makes the villain shit. I hate
really
that.
doesn't.
I don't know why I like the voice.
Everyone likes the voice. They use it for everything now.
Of course. And it's one of those things like I don't think because there's Joker in this series and like it's become popular not to like this movie and weirdly to an extent Nolan, but like Tom Hardy as Bane is like an amazing villain. That's like an iconic villain performance.
But Alex, they didn't have him on Venom.
Oh my god!
How can he be Bane?
I know. I'm like, what? Who cares? He's fucking giant. The dude is huge.
Bane's a better character when he's not on Venom, anyways, because he's still a hulking.
Show him being like huge and smart.
Yes, because that's what he is before before the Venom thing all the time.
Yeah. He's huge before Venom, and he's supposed to be smart too. Like everyone, because Batman and Robin and other Batman media, like Arkham Asylum, portray Bane as this giant hulking idiot that just screams and punches things. He was designed to be Batman's greatest nemesis ever, who could take him on.
Not only was he smart, he was
yeah, and you see that in this movie, right? Like it's not just that he's super strong. Like he uses the League of Shadows strategies to beat Batman. He turns this energy project into a giant bomb. Like
he understands the socioeconomic status of the people of Gotham better than most people do, and weaponizes that.
Uses that. Yeah, he uses that to like overthrow the city.
Like
take control of your city.
Take control. Like I love that they put him like fucking up the line in the fucking movie.
Well, he even he goes underneath Wayne Tower and breaks out all the other Wayne tech that Lucius has been stockpiling.
And all of his speeches are so good.
Every line he says is like absolute like gold, like in the best way.
Tom Hardy Bane is on the Mount Rushmore of meme villains. up there with Palpatine, Thanos, and Willem Dafoe, Green Goblin.
Like even
there's a reason I can quote damn near every line he says in this movie.
Well, like even his first introductions, like why won't they talk? Well, maybe they're confused why you would shoot a person before throwing him out of a plane.
Throwing him out of a plane. Which have you guys seen like the original like IMAX footage?
I actually really like you can't understand a word he's saying, but I actually really like it. Like
yeah,
they
like
could
it
have gone
sounds really
either way
good.
with it.
But because for people that don't know, Bane's voice had to be completely redone in post because they did like a sneak preview of the movie for IMAX, and people lost their minds because no one could understand a word he said, and you couldn't understand a word he said, but he sounded really cool.
Yeah, I remember. I think that footage was bootlegged and put on YouTube for a while before it got claimed
Yeah, you
or
can
whatever.
actually still watch it now.
Yeah,
It was like,
or at the very least, people have raw snippets of the audio
Yeah.
of Bane talking, and it doesn't sound good. It does not sound good.
oh, what a way to open! Like this just shows, like also like Nolan, like he opens this movie. Like, how can I top a bank heist? Oh, I know. Let's blow a plane out of the air.
A plane heist.
Well, you think about now, like you think of a blockbuster now, and you think how they do a plane falling. The first thing in your mind would be CGI. Nolan drops a plane out of the sky by dropping a plane out of the fucking sky. Like he legit like in like some random like European countryside just drops a plane.
And it works because I mean you're not gonna top the opening of Dark Knight, but he made a pretty amazing opening. Like it just instantly grabs your attention, and it's another one that establishes the villain perfectly and like sets up that intrigue of like, oh, like what's up with Bane? Who is he? What does he want?
And there's some amazing. I mean, some of the stunts of Rises take things to a whole other level. The football stadium explosion, the big fight at the end.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Like the scale of that is incredible. Like all these dudes just charging at each other, and like in the middle of that, you have Bane and Batman fighting with all these people fighting around them.
They're real people. They're not CGI'd.
Yeah, it looks so cool. And then comes what might be the worst part of the movie, which I still hate. Which bringing up another part of the movie we haven't talked about yet, which is when Catwoman shows up and kills Bane. So goddamn anticlimactic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that and kind of like the transition from Bane being the villain to Talia al Ghul. I love this. I'm like really high on this movie. I think it's incredible. That is the thing that I will like give up. I'll say, okay, I actually don't particularly like that. And yeah, Bane's death being anticlimactic because like it transitions away from him as the main, and then Talia al Ghul has like the worst death of a villain in a good movie I've ever seen.
It's one of the worst kept secrets of this movie too. I remember because they were trying to be like, no, she's not Talia. We know damn well that Marion Cotillard's Talia.
We do it before Walking In.
Did you cast her? And
it was funny.
I
knew that, and all my buddies who weren't real big comic book people or whatever, but just enjoyed Batman or whatever. I was like, I did not see that coming. I'm like, I knew before we walked in.
Yeah, like I knew damn well that she was.
How'd you know?
She was going to be someone.
I read Batman comics
because this was back when Marion Cotillard was kind of a big name. She really isn't anymore, but like she had that stretch for a few years where she was huge after Inception. It was obvious that Nolan wasn't going to just cast her as some random nobody.
Exactly.
She was going to be something important, and I thought she was a good casting for Talia. But I agree with you, Alex. The transition of "I'm evil now, haha, stab, stab, stab" was really
yeah, and it just kind of throws Bane away, and then like I mean, her death is kind of unintentionally hilarious.
Well, so is Christian Bale's face when Talia stabs him. he just goes like
well, doesn't like even College Humor like make fun of that too?
Yeah, I feel like that's where the whole idea for that video came from, is just his face.
Yeah.
And that's also something people need to shut up about Christian Bale's Batman voice.
What's wrong with that? Yeah, I don't get what's wrong with it.
Everyone acts like that invalidates his entire performance because he talks like this.
Well, yeah, most of the time you can tell who someone is by talking to them, but you can recognize their voice, stupid.
Hey, aren't you Bruce Wayne? No.
You're like the most famous voice in Gotham. I've definitely heard that voice. No.
I've definitely heard that on the news and the TV and when you give your speeches and everything.
No, you haven't.
Like, that's like even in like Batman, but like even in Batman v Superman, like Zack Snyder had to go out of his way of showing Jeremy Irons working on the voice modulator thing. So people wouldn't bitch about his voice.
Yeah, like
because they're gonna complain either way at this point. Like if it's normal, they'll complain. If he changes it, like in these these ones, which I mean, it sounds good, but they'll complain anyway.
And it's like, have you ever watched the animated series? Like Michael Keaton, or not Michael Keaton. Kevin Conroy did it. Michael Keaton did it somewhat in his movies. Just Christian Bale's was a little more over the top. What's the big deal?
Yeah, but again, it's not that these are like bad big issues, but people now use them to like go after the movies.
To make fun of it. It's like,
yeah, and act like it invalid, because there was that time in 2012 when the first Avengers came out, and there were a bunch of people that were talking like Avengers was better than Dark Knight. Like there was a lot. Those people no longer exist
because no one even talks about the first Avengers movie.
Yeah, like
we're still talking about Dark Knight.
Yeah, but I remember a time that people were like, Avengers is so much better because there's so much fighting and all the characters. It's the same arguments people are giving for why fucking No Way Home should win an Oscar for Best Picture. It's the same as they argue.
There's so many characters,
and they fight together, and then Hulk went, "Puny God."
I'm always angry, and then he smashed.
Someone who saw Avengers 4 times in theaters, like I always said, like I'm like, I enjoy this movie. It's fun. It's cool. You're seeing them all together. It's something we've never seen before on big screen. But it's like Dark Knight's still freaking better.
Hold the fuck up. You saw Avengers 4 times in theaters?
Yeah, I went with several different friend groups.
That's like 10 hours of your life.
Hey, so I'm coming to Justice's defense because I watched The Dark Knight, The Dark Knight Rises, and Inception at least 3 times a piece in theaters.
Well, I mean, I think I saw 2 of them. I saw multiple times too, but they're not
Avengers.
The first Avengers
I'm a little
4
surprised.
times.
Well, that came out around like in my first year of college. So I went and saw it with friends from college. I went home. I saw it from friends that I knew from high school. I saw it with.
Well, and again, people when that movie came out were like super hyped for it, and I think it was a different mindset, right? Like you watch that movie now, it's rough. But at the time, I mean, I'm a cynical asshole. So even when I saw that for the first time, I was like, this is just okay, which got you in trouble. And now I'm right. like I got so much crap for thinking First Avengers was just all right. And now most people are like, it's just all right.
That's all right. We still get yelled at because we think Age of Ultron's a better Avengers movie than the first one.
Are we going to start this fight again?
See, like at this point, like, I mean, I've said that I really strongly dislike Age of Ultron, but at this point, I don't care enough to fight because I don't particularly care for the first one. So like, no. I'm not going to fight for like a decent movie over a kind of bad movie.
Are we over very meh movies or which one's less meh?
Right. I'm not going to get in a shouting match about 2 movies I'm not going to watch again.
But yeah, if someone tries to argue that the MCU, I think that all 3 Dark Knight movies are better than almost all of the MCU movies. There's Winter Soldier and Guardians 1 I might have above Dark Knight Rises.
Well, I remember after Civil War came out, it was like the debate was like, which is the better superhero trilogy, the Dark Knight trilogy or the Captain America trilogy? I'm like, still Dark Knight.
Like Dark Knight.
Yeah, for me,
way over.
Yeah, for me, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I would have any MCU ones over. Maybe Guardians over Begins, because I'm sure we'll get to our rankings at one point, but I would put Rises over Begins.
I would love to write an article that's like, what's better, Dark Knight or Avengers Endgame? And just for the article, just write Dark Knight as like the body of it.
The one line, that's it. Just just
Dark Knight. Like, enough said. That's all you really need to say. I mean, I remember how hyped I was for Rises, though. I didn't see it at midnight, but I did see it opening day and was like frothing at the mouth for it. Like for any piece of information on the movie.
Oh, I saw it.
Like, do you guys remember thinking the last Harry Potter movie that had that trailer that was like made up almost entirely of old footage? And you got like 2 seconds of actual like new footage, but everyone still lost their minds.
Well, it's the same with it's the same thing with that Endgame trailer where it's just all recycled old footage.
Yeah, but I was way more hyped for Dark Knight Rises. Because I was like 16 when Rises came out, so I was a teenager and was like prone to getting hyped over shit. Like I was ready.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it at midnight, and that's when I kind of knew it wasn't as good as The Dark Knight because I was kind of falling asleep at points during the movie. So I was like,
I felt when I saw it, I was really excited after I saw it. I think I saw it twice on the first weekend.
I saw it twice in theaters. Just because I didn't meet many people that wanted to go to it. But I went with people that hadn't seen Dark Knight before they saw Rises, which was like, well, okay, why the fuck are you here? Because Dark Knight is like the only one of them, in my opinion, that's truly standalone.
Yeah.
Because Begins needs Dark Knight to follow it, and Rises needs both movies to really make complete sense.
Mm-hmm.
Not just plot.
Because 3 actually draws heavily on both of them.
Yeah, well, because just like the themes too, of like Batman's journey and stuff, it needs those two because you need the regret over Harvey Dent and you need his relationships to Ra's al Ghul and stuff. Those are so important. But I don't understand whether it's so picked on. Like at least Rises is picked on, and people pick on Dark Knight because it's too long. People, it's 2.5 hours.
You don't even feel it. You don't even feel the 2.5 hours.
No, it does not stop. Like the pace of that movie is really fast.
The first time that you see Dark Knight, especially, your heart's racing the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's such an anxiety-fueled movie. I mean, now I can watch it on TV halfway through and be just fine. It doesn't give me the same feeling anymore. But when I was like 12 or 13 watching that movie at home, my God, I was glued to that TV.
We even think about it now. It's just like if this was like an MCU movie and you see Rachel hooked to gas lines and everything, you're like, oh, she's gonna get saved. Nope, she dies. You're like, whoa.
You can only pick one, and we mean it.
Joke's on you.
We didn't even talk about this that much, but what's your guys' opinion on Anne Hathaway's Catwoman? Because that's also one of the more, I think, divisive parts of the.
See, I think she did it very well. She pulls off that like she's innocent, and all of a sudden she's like flicks the switch, and all of a sudden she's like cunning and everything. I don't think she had quite enough to do, but I thought she did quite well.
I hate some.
I think their dynamic good as well.
I hate some of what she does with her voice as the character, when she goes like, "I'm Catwoman," like does like the super like almost like sing-songy voice tone.
Yeah, if she was more seductory, I think it would work better.
She's trying to be like playful, and it comes across as just weird.
Yeah.
At least to me, I think the writing of Catwoman, I like what they do with the character.
They thought, like, again with Nolan's, like he made every part of her costume, like the ears coming down, turning into like goggles and everything, brilliant. Like he finds a way of making things work. They're not just for show.
What I like about her is that they actually gave her an arc too, because when the movie starts, she's firmly like eat the rich, down with the people at the top kind of mentality. But over the course of the movie, because with the brutality and violence of Bane's people, it changes her view of life.
Yeah, she's like, she realizes that he's, he sees that that's what the mood is, and he's like trying to manipulate it, and then she's like, oh shit.
Yeah, like
I shouldn't have helped this guy.
This is just as bad. This is just as terrible as it's just the same dynamic, but just flipped. Because you have that great scene, right? Exile or death.
Death by exile.
Like of just all the rich people just being put on trial with this ridiculous show trial, being forced to walk on ice. God, like such a good scene. But again, and as part of it is I do wish that they were able to explore that society of Gotham more. And you do see that side of Gotham in other Batman media, the comics, the video games, Arkham Knight and Arkham City both have a lot of that in there. But I wish in that movie specifically, because it was so cool, right? Like you have this scene where the military comes in, and there's all like the rich people holed up in that one area, and then Bane's group comes in and cleans them out and hangs the bodies from the bridge. Oh, there's one character we haven't talked about in Rises. That might be the most divisive part of the movie.
Oh,
which is Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Oh, wow, yeah, I forgot.
He's the most forgettable part of that movie, and he's basically like the co-lead.
Yeah,
I think he's fine.
Yeah, only thing that was cringe was like, oh, his name is Robin at the end.
Yeah,
like
Robin. Boo! Boo!
You could like
just say his name is Dick Grayson. Like don't call him Robin.
Yeah. If you said your name is Dick Grayson, people would be, or say his first name is Grayson, because I think that is a first name in some cultures.
Yeah,
like people
or even
would be
like that.
Hell yeah!
Yeah, Robin was like,
it's Robin. People go, oh, that's not good.
Robin is you just took Bane's fist to your face.
Yeah,
like it's so on the nose. Like it's, and the other thing that really
you expect something dumb like that, because he basically does become like the lead once Batman gets his back broken.
Yeah. Well, and I kind of figured they were going that way, but it's just like his name doesn't have to be Robin. Like, could have been Grayson, Dick, Tim, Jason, Todd. I mean, anything but Robin.
I feel like you don't even need that scene because he goes to get the Batcave and goes to get Batman stuff. Like, you know who he is. Like, when he goes there and does that stuff, like, anybody can figure out who he is, right? Like, you don't need to say the name like that or whatever because the movie ends with him, taking over.
Which I also hated because, like, that guy's gonna die, like, on his first guy.
Yeah.
That was so, and plus, it gave room for people to be like, when is Nolan's fourth Batman movie starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt gonna come out?
That definitely did. I remember all those articles. I'm like, it's not happening.
Which, I mean, those came out even like after freaking Batman v Superman came out. They still came out. Like, is Batman v Superman setting the stage for a Chris Nolan return with Christian Bale? No, it's not.
I also there's another character in this movie that, like, he doesn't have many lines, but, like, I love the call to him being, like, Deadshot. And that's like Josh Stewart. He's like a very small, like, TV actor or whatever. I've seen in a couple of things, but
is that Bane's weird friend guy?
Yeah, he's basically like carrying a sniper rifle around all the time.
Oh yeah, they got the creepy voice.
That made a lot more sense other than just random henchman number 8.
See, I always just took him as he was like Deadshot or whatever. But then that's me implying that again.
Well, see, and that's one of the worst parts of Nolan movies. If you're gonna have negatives on them, is like you can embrace the comics, guys. You can do some comic book stuff. You can have that guy be Deadshot. You can have Robin be Dick Grayson, not some dude named Robin. Mm-hmm. But like you can give some fan service. I mean, now it's almost expected of too much fan service.
Yeah,
which is why I'm okay with it because it's like it's the small trade-off, and what we got was so amazing. I'm like, yeah, I'll take the fact that they're like not even referencing some of this stuff
because I will give him credit because I got into a fight with a guy in high school because he hated the Nolan movies because they weren't comic book accurate enough, which this dude didn't read a comic book ever. So I don't know why he was being such a purist over something he knew nothing about.
Sounds like he just wanted to hate on something everyone else liked.
A little bit. But it's one of those, like, he wanted, like, Mark Hamill Joker. But Mark Hamill Joker, like, I'm not hot take. I don't really like the first Tim Burton Batman that much. It's been a while since I've seen it and I'm willing to watch it again and give it another shot. It's too weird. It totally doesn't work to me.
It does shift tones quite a bit all over the place.
I like it. I think it's at this weird point where it used to be like kind of overlooked, like people forgot about it and it was very good. And now it's to the point with all the Flash shit and all this other stuff. It's become like absurdly overrated. Like, it was a good movie. It did well. It's not like anywhere near this stuff. Like, and it definitely has issues.
I like Returns way more. Way more. I mean, it's better than Forever or Batman and Robin.
Yeah. Those two are the bottom. But they're kind of even for me.
But like people, like I like Tim Burton's style. It's just it's this weird mix of tones and time periods and all this shit. Where at least with Nolan made the decision to make a grounded, realistic Batman, and that's what we got exactly perfectly on every level. On the costumes, on the tech, like the Tumbler, which is still probably the coolest Batmobile.
So cool.
Even though people still
from the villains,
people hate
like
on the tank
Joker
for some
is
reason.
A grounded portrayal of Joker. Like, everything is just realistic. It's exactly as he wanted it, and I appreciate that. But the Tumbler is sick.
How it turns into the Bat Pod halfway through the freaking Dark Knight.
Oh, that was so cool.
Like, even the Bat is really cool too. The flying one in Dark Knight Rises.
It does look kind of dumb when you isolate it by itself. Like, you see like a raw model, it looks kind of stupid.
Like the concept is really cool though.
Yeah, it's definitely in line with what he wanted to do, right? Batman's not just gonna have some fucking airplane he flies around.
And like that's the interesting thing. Like they made all of this grounded tech, yet Batman still has a lot of tech, right? He still has all this cool shit that's really useful, but that's actually like practical, because again, like besides like using practical stunts with it, like it has practicality for the character and is useful and also looks very like modern tech in a really cool way.
It's a very like tactical military type design, and it works.
Yeah. Well, and what's even really kind of cool is because I don't think they had anything to do with it, but like for Arkham Asylum, like because they had to be way in production before the Dark Knight, but like somehow they both had like detective mode.
Yeah.
And it's just like it works. Like that makes sense.
And he actually investigates in these movies.
He's a detective for large parts of these movies. Which I am interested. That's why I'm really excited for Matt Reeves' The Batman, because it's gonna be like a detective movie, which we never really have gotten from Batman, like purely.
And especially with the Riddler being the villain, you're definitely gonna get some. I hope some detective
Yeah, like the
work.
Zodiac looking villain.
Yeah.
Like,
can I just
Batman
say something?
the Zodiac killer.
Something about the Batman that I hope kind of happens. It probably won't, but I kind of hope that he doesn't catch the Riddler and the Riddler gets away at the end of the movie.
I mean, I think he's caught in the trailer, so.
Well, I mean, but that seems. I think what happens is they catch him and then he breaks out later.
See,
whatever,
do you want my theory?
Sure.
Riddler's not the main villain.
Yeah, probably not.
We're gonna have a twist villain.
I think so too.
Because
I think
they're hiding so much from that movie. There's gonna be a twist villain that we haven't seen yet.
Mm-hmm. Well, I remember one episode of the Batman the animated series, like he trying to catch the Riddler or whatever, and the Riddler gets away. Like all of a sudden he's on a plane, and it's just like the episode ends, and you're like, oh, he didn't catch him. It'd just be something that would work really well with
but he's
the
supposed
Riddler.
to catch him at the end of the episode. What the fuck do I do with myself? My cartoon didn't end in success. Which is what's so great about that show, right? It's like actually thought provoking. It's like, what the fuck? He didn't catch him. What?
Like I said,
I do agree. That would be really cool in this movie. If I agree with both of you. Like, I think there's gonna be another villain, and I also think there's a good chance, like the fact that they showed them catching the Riddler, that like the Riddler ends up out at the end of this movie.
Or I'm wondering if they're gonna do something like Long Halloween, where the killer that they catch and the real killer are two different people.
Yeah,
could be two.
Right, in Long Halloween, they don't catch the book, not the movie. The movie fucked this part up, but in the book, they catch the wrong person.
Mm-hmm.
I just hope that the twist villain isn't the Joker, because I love the Joker, but we can use different villains. And I swear to God, if I see fucking Joaquin Phoenix walk out, I'm leaving the theater.
Okay, that's true. I was gonna say, like, it would honestly be kind of crazy if it's the Joker and they've kept it secret this whole time. And I would be interested to see who it is. Unless if it's Joaquin Phoenix, I'm gonna fucking leave. Like, yeah, I'm gonna great actor, but no.
Yeah,
I can't see that happening just because, like, in the Joker movie, Bruce is so young where he's like,
it's not gonna happen.
I know,
right?
But there are people that want it to happen, and I don't want them to win.
See, I'm scared. I'm scared that the Joker is going to be the other main villain, just because we see like the Joker gang. It looks like.
Yeah, there's some allusions to it.
Yeah,
and it's kind of like who else? Like, if there is a twist villain, and we already have Penguin and Riddler in this movie, it's like, I mean, he has a lot of villains, but like, who's left that's big enough to be a twist villain?
It could be Two-Face. I've heard there were rumors of Two-Face, or that Two-Face might not be Dent in this universe.
Sounds stupid.
And that Stellan Skarsgård's name was tossed around for that, but I think from what we've seen, that might not be him. Like, he might not be in the movie very long at all.
Maybe what we should have gotten.
Peter Sarsgaard, I'm a fucking idiot.
I mean, maybe it's like what we should have gotten Arkham Origins, where it's Black Mask.
I haven't heard Black Mask. Well, because Barry Keoghan's in the movie, yet his character has never been revealed yet. So that's the big question mark, is who is Barry Keoghan playing?
According to IMDb, it says Officer Stanley Merkel.
Oh, he's Merkel? Okay, I actually like that a lot, but...
that's according to IMDb.
But anybody who's secret, everybody's going to be like, is he the Joker?
Yeah, which is what they're doing. I don't know if you see, like, there's so many, like demon
just
art.
Literally the first thing that came up, I looked up Barry Keoghan, because I'm like, who is this guy again? I looked up, went to news. It's a picture of Barry Keoghan and then a picture of Joker next to each other.
Yeah, people have been like, is he the Joker?
Yeah,
going back to Nolan for a sec, can we briefly talk about, I'm sure there's enough with Nolan for us to talk about for a whole other episode, like Inception, Dunkirk, Tenet,
Interstellar,
Prestige. But can we just talk a little bit, which we alluded to earlier, because not only have the Batman movies kind of been reassessed, I would say unfairly, but Nolan himself, people have turned on him, like the film community as a whole has turned on Nolan in a very, what I would call, bizarre way. Like, I remember when like Inception Tenet came out, it was like, is Nolan the greatest director ever? And now it's like, is he a hack?
And I don't really know where this came from or why. Like, where's his bad movie? Like, don't even talk about like multiple of his movies are bad. Like, where's his bad movie? One, give me one.
But Interstellar wasn't as good as Inception, so now he's washed up.
See,
He's made nothing but good movies.
my problem with this thing is Nolan is a smart dude. He treats his audience like you're smart. So you have to watch his movie like 2-3 times to completely understand what's going on. And I think a lot of these, like from Interstellar past, I've learned you have to watch these movies twice. So I don't think people are like, they watch it once, they're like, I didn't understand it. It's stupid. He's a hack. Michael Bay could direct better, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, watch the movie again. Because like, I was very low on Interstellar the first time I watched it. But after a couple more views, it's like, it's gone up. And it's because he throws so much dialogue at you of what he is trying to do in this film that you miss some of it. And on rewatch, you know part of it and you pick up more stuff as you go along.
Yeah, and you have to pay close attention. Like they're movies that require attentiveness. You can't be on your phone for half the movie and look up and know what the fuck is going on. Like the attention to detail is very high, and it's in something dialogue heavy like Interstellar that has a lot to digest, or something not dialogue heavy at all like Dunkirk, where the character is revealed in like action and moments where like you really have to be like watching intensely to get like the full feel of that movie.
I just want to point out, when we say people which are turning on Nolan, we're talking like film fans, not necessarily film critics, because I'm looking for stuff on it. It's mostly just people who've turned on him because like your typical film school bros that have
used to be
on
his
him.
core audience.
Yeah.
And it's strange, yeah, because like really critically his movies are doing just fine. Like Tenet, for all of like the weird place that's in, that and like some of the weird negative reviews it got that didn't make any sense, it still got good reviews. Like it was still pretty well reviewed. It wasn't like the awards contender it was supposed to be beforehand, but it did very well.
Well, because you had Interstellar's too complicated, Dunkirk is too simple, and with Tenet, I mean, he was like blamed for Tenet being released, and that's not up to him. Like that's not on Nolan. Tenet being released in the middle of a pandemic is not Christopher Nolan's fault.
I know
he wanted it released in theaters, but they could have pushed it back. That number of things that they could have done. But yeah, he definitely did push for it to be released theatrically.
Yeah. Well, he left Warner when they did the HBO Max thing. But like he severed which he loved working for Warner, and he severed his entire working relationship with them over it.
Well, he's one of those purists.
Who's doing the Oppenheimer movie?
Universal.
Oh, okay. I forgot where he went to.
It's sad because I mean he loved working for Warner. He's pretty open about it, but he also, which didn't even affect his movie. That's the insane thing, is that he left over a decision that didn't actually affect him. Because Tenet still outgrossed like every other movie in the pandemic up until like Dune or Shang-Chi.
It just stayed in for so long. It was the only show in town. It just kept making money.
Like 6 months.
It was so funny.
Like it made more than everything but like Dune and Spider-Man, right?
Shang-Chi beat it too.
Did it?
But not by much.
I was gonna say that has to be like minuscule.
But Spider-Man's also beaten almost everything ever.
Yeah. It's like third all time now or whatever.
Yeah, it beat Avatar. I know that for
domestic. Yeah.
Domestic Avatar.
I saw someone's like, finally something else will beat that mediocre movie of Avatar. I'm like, fucking No Way Home's a mediocre movie. What are you talking about?
James Cameron sitting flexing his muscles as it's still #1 worldwide over Endgame.
No, I thought Endgame beat it worldwide.
No, with the China re-release of Avatar, like absolutely destroyed, and now it's like 80 million above Endgame. Like, look this shit up. It's hilarious.
Well, and I'm pretty sure they're gonna re-release it again.
I think
leading
so.
up to the second one.
I will travel, which is weird to say that you have to travel to see a 3D movie, but I will travel to wherever I go to wherever I need to get to see Avatar in 3D again. If they release Avatar in 3D, I will travel hours to see.
See, now I'm actually curious. Like, I didn't see it in 3D, so I'm kind of curious of how it is. You've raved about it, and you don't like 3D movies, so I know if you're raving about this, it's like I have to see it in 3D.
Yeah, it's now. So I'm looking at it again. It's 50 million over Endgame now.
Okay.
All from the Chinese re-release.
Do you know how much under it was when the release happened?
I think it was a couple million. I would have to look.
It wasn't.
I know it wasn't
only
much.
I didn't know if it was 100 million over.
Yeah, because they released it again. That remember, like they did that final push to get Endgame over.
All the Marvel fans went to go see it.
Well, because they released the Endgame extended cut in quotes. That was just 2 unfinished scenes tacked on at the end.
I know. I had a buddy who hadn't seen Endgame yet. He's like, which one's the re-release or whatever? I'm like, I don't know. It's like whatever has the longest runtime. He's like, well, one's 304, one's 309. I'm like, well, I guess it's 309. And like, not much of a change.
Because they really, and there is a lot they could add to that movie, but they just did it so they could say it's different and then beat Avatar.
And then Avatar just re-releases in China.
There's just no cut.
So funny.
Like I don't really know if Avatar in 3D would look good by modern standards. I mean, 12 years ago it was mind blowing.
Yeah.
But that was 12 years ago.
Is it
3D came a long way.
Is it kind of bad of me? I'm kind of curious. So how well Avatar is going to look now, 12 years later, the second one.
I've seen Avatar like a year or two ago. A lot of it it's aged better than you would expect, but large portions of it, especially when there's humans mixed with CGI, don't look great.
Or I meant more. I'm curious of how good the second one might look.
Oh, it's gonna melt everyone's retinas right out of their skull.
Just because it is James Cameron, so it's kind of like
I honestly think I really do think the second one later this year, like that movie's gonna be huge. Like we're at the point where like other than No Way Home, we're kind of starved for a big release. There's kind of intrigue over Avatar a little bit again because of how much they've spent on it and how long it's been.
I am kind of curious how that's gonna go.
It literally just re-released like a year or two ago for shits and giggles in China and made another $50 million.
Well,
just for funsies.
Which I wish they would do that here. I wish they would do it.
And I think they will before the new one. Now that there's no way Endgame can ever get up top of it again.
Because I'll go see it. And I'll see Avatar too. And whenever retina burning laser 3 glasses with 3D monstrosity Cameron invents for it, which is probably why it's taken so long because he has to figure out how he can screen it the way he wants without killing everyone.
Yeah, and I think they stopped for how long just so they could invent underwater mocap.
Yeah, they've been trying to figure.
We got to pause for a couple of years. What I need for this movie doesn't exist yet.
With its stupid pool with all the fucking foam balls in it.
That thing I kind of want to jump in there. That looks fun. Put me in there.
Yeah, I'm looking at the picture right now. It looks kind of cool.
It looks like a ball pit and a pool in the same thing.
It only cost $300 million to make for Avatars 4 through 7 or 2 through 7 or however much they're fucking making now.
He's just like, oh yeah, I shot 3 and 4 completely. Oh, and I snuck in 3/4 of 5 while you guys weren't looking. You what?
It took like 13 years to make 2. He's gonna release 5 of them back to back.
Well, it's supposed to come out December this year?
Yeah.
I'm
still not
it's
sure actually happening now.
Well, I'm waiting for a trailer, I'm just like trying to think of like when we get a trailer, so probably like June-ish area.
I want E3 because Ubisoft's making that new Avatar game. I'm hoping that James Cameron will come on and talk
like it's WWE.
I want him to come out and talk without showing any footage whatsoever for 20 minutes again. Like he did 12 years ago.
It's coming along great, guys. You'll see it soon. Delayed another 2 years.
That was so ridiculous. Anyway, let's go back to Nolan for a second, wrap up the show. Overall, you asked for it, so let's do it. Let's rank Chris Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. I'll go first.
One is clearly The Dark Knight.
Well, yeah, obviously, we're going to have Dark Knight at 1. I'll probably have Begins. Sorry. I'll probably have Begins at 2, Rises at 3. But honestly, Begins and Rises are like neck and neck to me. I just think that the story of Begins is a little more complete.
For me, mine, I obviously Dark Knight at 1. And what I said before, I do really think Rises, like I'm kind of a tier above with Rises, I think, where you guys are, because I have it at 2. And as much as I love Begins, like for me, I'm not even like thinking about it. Like I do really love Dark Knight Rises. I don't care what anybody says. The movie's huge, and just like the scale of it, I still get chills watching, even just like watching clips from that movie, like some of them. Like, it's just so well told and refined. But Begins at 3, like Begins is fantastic. I mean, this is one of the best trilogies ever. So, I mean, it's tough to put it at the bottom, but it's still an excellent film. But yeah, for me, Dark Knight Rises is number 2, like easily.
Yeah, I'm going with Begins at 2. It's like David said, it's very neck and neck. I'd have to rewatch. I haven't seen The Dark Knight Rises in a while. I'd have to rewatch that one. It maybe it'd bump it up, but right now I gotta go Dark Knight Begins and Dark Knight Rises.
David and Justin, bros and opinions live.
Like I said, I definitely got definitely got to rewatch Rises again to see it.
I do pretty much all of them. I kind of want to do a massive Batman watch before the Batman comes out. Just like one a day, go through Burton to Schumacher to Nolan.
Honestly, I should go back to Burton solely because, believe it or not, I've never seen Batman Returns.
Dude, you should. Like, I really
feel like I would like that movie.
It's a good
like
movie.
you would too. It's a lot of fun. I put it on
I
par.
want to go back and watch the 80s one. I remember enjoying that. I saw it like a couple times, like growing up, before Dark Knight existed.
but Returns has Danny DeVito as the Penguin, which is perfect.
Yeah,
and Christopher Walken as some weird mix of Black Mask and Roland Daggett.
Yeah, his name is Shrek.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Max Shrek.
Somebody.
Anyway, we've been talking for a long time, so I say it's time to wrap this show up. Thank you guys so much for listening. Let us know your thoughts on Chris Nolan's Batman movies, or Batman movies in general, or Chris Nolan in general. Are you anti-Nolan now? Let us know. We want to hear your thoughts. Comment on this video on YouTube, or let us know on our Facebook page. And don't forget to hit that bell and all that fun ones. But for Alex and Justin, I'm David Yanish. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Idiot Plot, and we will see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Idiot Plot. You can find us on Spotify, Anchor FM, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe and hit the bell to get a notification every time we drop a new episode. Also, follow us on Facebook and Letterbox. The links are in the description.